hey, what's up, everybody's trying like sneakers. So I got my shoes on. Well, it's 12:11 a.m. My YouTube channel has likes. I don't play with knives. During an old psychosis, I wrote down that I was raped by my ex-boyfriend. I got about 500 friend requests. I wrote down my first girlfriend, Alicia, cheated on me. I wrote down that I was Wiccan, and I pulled out a knife and said, if you come to my house, it's illegal for you. And I posted this one woman's slander pages. I wrote down that only on one day when I was young I did things with a boy. I wrote down that I had 5 girlfriends. I wrote down that my family is evil, and my dad didn't buy me a car. I wrote down I was violently raped by my ex-boyfriend. I wrote down there's a mix of an evil audience and victims. I wrote down that I had autism and schizophrenia and bipolar. And I deal with tactile hallucinations, but I wrote down I had a girlfriend with black hair 9 months ago. I wrote down I'll always love this guy because he was my boyfriend. I wrote down that my dad is evil. I wrote down that I was raped by my ex-boyfriend. I wrote down that I couldn't find love with females. I wrote down that I couldn't find love, no matter what I would do. I wrote down that I have schizophrenia. I wrote down that my first girlfriend, Alicia, cheated on me. I wrote down that my family is evil. I wrote down I didn't care if I went to jail because I don't like living with my dad. I wrote down that there are 9 or 10 people on my Facebook that are real. And I wrote down that there's about 17 or 18 of them that don't talk to me anymore. I wrote down that I don't like this guy as my ex-boyfriend. I wrote down that I had a girlfriend with black hair 9 months ago. I wrote down that I brought the police to my house to document messages where I would stare at my girlfriend and look away from my boyfriend. I wrote down I did things with a boy named Kelly on one day, after my one boyfriend. I wrote down that my first date photoshopped a picture of me that said Shelby and Ryan a match made in hell. I wrote down that I find the coronavirus to be sad and depressing. I wrote down that my dad did not buy me a car. I wrote down I was violently raped. And all my videos had 5 dislikes on them at a time. Through my psychosis, I figured out that I'm bisexual. Because my dad didn't buy me a car and he didn't let my friends come over. I was told that Hecate is a goddess. I wrote down that my first girlfriend, Alicia, cheated on me. I wrote down I couldn't find love with females. I wrote down that my dad, George, is evil. I wrote down that I don't like this guy as my ex-boyfriend. And I wrote down I was in psychosis. And I was charged with a misdemeanor. Because I talked about my girlfriend who would cheat on me. I wrote down I did things with a boy named Kelly on one day after my one boyfriend. I wrote down that there's a guy named Jeff McGaney that lives up the street who is a people coincidence person. I wrote down that I had a girlfriend that I was going to see my new girlfriend. I wrote down I couldn't find love with females. I wrote down this house was like a prison. Because no, my dad didn't buy me a car. There was a guy named Gary that noticed my psychosis. And I told him that this guy was my ex-boyfriend and you feel raped when it's over because you take showers a lot. I wrote down that I will not say I am gay or bisexual. And I have a lot of followers on my Sims 4. I threw up during my psychosis. There was a guy whose name was Manuel. That noticed my psychosis. And I told him this guy was my boyfriend. I told him I couldn't find love with females. I told him that I feel as if I'm not gay. A boy named Josh noticed my psychosis and told me I was pathetic and told me National Enquirer wouldn't even publish my story. I wrote down that my family is evil. I wrote down my dad George did not buy me a car. I pulled out a knife and said, if you come here, it's illegal for you. I posted this one woman's slander pages. I wrote down the treatment team abused me. I wrote down my first girlfriend Alicia didn't perform oral sex on me. I wrote down I fingered my 5th girlfriend Sabrina. I wrote down I wanted Jeffree Star to contact me. My therapist told me I could have went to jail. I wrote down people can act like me and my 2 friends having threesomes. Well, my ex-girlfriend. I posted this one woman's slander pages. I wrote down that I found humor in my ex-boyfriend's animal torture videos. I wrote down that the insiders of my ex-boyfriend need to understand that I will not say I am gay. I wrote down I'm a paranoid schizophrenic person. I wrote down I didn't care if I went to jail because my dad pulls out knives and leaves them on the counter, and I felt like jail would be more comfortable than being here because no, I could not find love with females. and I didn't care if I went to jail. I wrote down that I don't like my dad because he's evil and he abuses me. I wrote down that my family is evil. I wrote down I was in a witchcraft coven. There's a new tweet that says, I wonder what the dude from those videos are doing. He should be behind bars. I wrote down I'm a paranoid schizophrenic and that I hear voices. I wrote down that this boy wanted to put things about me on this slander page. I wrote down I was violently raped by my ex-boyfriend. And I wrote down that these two girls named Jasmine and Brandy are real. I wrote down there's a boy named Jared that looks like my ex-boyfriend. I wrote down that no, I will not say I am gay. I wrote down this guy named Gary wanted to have a threesome with me. I wrote down that my mom's name is Pam, my stepdad's name is Tony, and my brother is named Zach. And there's a lady named Pam where I worked, a man named Tony, and a boy named Zachary. I wrote down I believe in this goddess. That is that real to me. I wrote down I felt like she enjoyed being evil to me because my girlfriend cheated on me. Because no, I could not find love with females. No matter what I would do. I wrote down I'm a schizophrenic. I wrote down I have tactile hallucinations. I wrote down I have stomach and bathroom issues. I wrote down I feel like God enjoys being evil to me. This boy named Austin told me he was aware of my psychosis. I wrote down I wanted Jeffree Star to contact me. I wrote down I was a schizophrenic. And I wrote down that I will always love this guy as my ex-boyfriend. I shut down the YouTube channel and moved on with my life. I brought the police to my house. I wrote down when I talked to my friend Sean that I couldn't tell if some people were real. I wrote down that I don't smoke marijuana. I wrote down that I drink alcohol. A girl named Victoria noticed my psychosis, and she leaves me on scene in my text messages. I wrote down that my first girlfriend, Alicia, cheated on me. I wrote down I was raped. My ex-boyfriend contacted me, and I said yes, I would stare at her and looked away from you. I wrote down I have schizophrenia, and I have dissociative alters. I wrote down I hear voices. I wrote down the people coincidence people are real, even though I'm a schizophrenic. They just are. I wrote down that I was Wiccan. I wrote down that my family is evil. I wrote down I couldn't find love with females. I wrote down my ex-girlfriend performed oral sex on me more than this other boy. I wrote down I was raped. A Jewish boy made fun of me. I wrote down I figured out I'm bisexual. I wrote down there's a boy named Rob Meyer that lives up the street. My first threesome's wife noticed my psychosis and sent me a mean message and unfriended me. All my videos had 5 dislikes on them. My one YouTube channel has views, but it has some likes. There's a boy that made fun of me. I wrote down there's nothing wrong with being gay or bisexual. I wrote down I could not drive because of my schizophrenia. I wrote down having threesomes with my friends was fun. I threw up the finger. I wrote down my ex-girlfriend might want me back because she knew I was tied into Jeffrey. I wrote down I feel like God enjoys being evil to me. I wrote down I was raped by a drag queen. I wrote down I could not drive. I wrote down sometimes I like to pull the girl with black hair that holds a knife card. Because I couldn't find love with females. And I proved who I was. I wrote down my first girlfriend Alicia cheated on me. I wrote down I didn't care if I went to jail. I wrote down this guy named Gary wanted to have a threesome with me. I wrote down I hear voices. I wrote down I have Tourette syndrome and schizophrenia. I wrote down I couldn't find love with females. I wrote down I have stomach and bathroom issues. I wrote down I feel like God enjoys being evil to me. I wrote down that my first girlfriend Alicia cheated on me. I wrote down that I hear voices. I wrote down I felt like this boy would put things about me on this slander page, which is why my dad bought me a camera, so Jeffree Star could contact me. I wrote down my first best friend Victor didn't talk to me anymore. I wrote down rape is my life, and I know I'm going to heaven when I die, because of this boy that I always looked away from. I always looked the other way at him. And I wrote down that I would stare at my girlfriend and look away from my boyfriend. A girl noticed my psychosis and told me a charge will be coming my way. I wrote down my therapist is named Amy. I wrote down my manager was named Amy. I wrote down I wasn't working because of my schizophrenia, because my job fired me. I wrote down that I was at the school and I was one of the most popular boys before I got schizophrenia. My ex-girlfriend's YouTube is a picture of her laughing. I wrote down that I have severe depression. I wrote down that Victor was my best friend. And I wrote down I was raped by this guy. I wrote down that I have a friend named Carl, who calls himself Carl James Himes. And then my friend is named James Colvin. I wrote down that I don't play with knives, even though I believe all this. But I said if you come to my house, it's illegal, because I live on private property. They told me I would serve no jail time. I wrote down I was raped. I wrote down I believe in a god and a goddess. My dad told me the police were here. My dad told me to delete this channel or I'd be going to jail for a very long time about this woman that made slander pages about me. I have tactile hallucinations, but it's not like I feel any pain. I wrote down I was raped. I wrote down there's a friend named John on my Facebook. It makes me think of this guy named John Hocht. I posted this one woman's slander pages. I wrote down that I don't like this guy as my ex-boyfriend. I wrote down that I cut myself once. I wrote down that I will not say I am gay or bisexual because I feel pride and that I did things with only on one day when I was young doesn't count. I feel like what counts is this girl named Brooke on this slander page. I wrote down that I had a girlfriend with black hair and that I was going to have a new girlfriend. I wrote down that there are 9 or 10 people on my Facebook that are real, and about 17 or 18 of them that don't talk to me anymore. I wrote down that I would perform oral sex on my one boyfriend. And I would always think of my 2 girlfriends, but I would always look the other way at him. I wrote down there was a guy named Gary that wanted to have a threesome with me. I wrote down I was raped. I wrote down I couldn't find love with females. I wrote down my family's evil. I wrote down my dad did not buy me a car. Alright, this is going on 34 minutes. I hope everybody's good. Much love and peace to everybody from Ryan Lakes, Alien.